Hello everyone, Tawana Michelle here, Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Coach and Mental Health Therapist. And today we're going to be talking about the narcissistic injury. What is a narcissistic injury? What triggers it? What does it look like? What should you do if the narcissist has suffered a narcissistic injury? So let's talk about what a narcissistic injury is. A narcissistic injury occurs anytime the narcissist facade, mask, whatever you want to call it, comes down, comes off, their defense mechanism has been temporarily broken down, their core shame has been triggered and accessed, and their true self is experienced by them. So when they feel like they have a hint of something that feels like shame, something that feels like weakness, something that feels like less than perfection for them, something that has broken down that defense mechanism that has kept them in a position where they have been seeing themselves as perfect and superior and these grandiose beings, it falls apart and the narcissist suffers a narcissistic injury. Now, the types of things that can trigger a narcissistic injury could be rejection, any type of rejection. Now, the narcissist feels like they can have whatever they want. They can have whoever they want. They can do whatever they want. And so when those attempts at conquering something or someone, because they try to conquer people as well, when their attempts at gaining something that they want for their own personal need, for supply, basically, narcissistic supply is when the narcissist uses usually people to try and feed their egos, to try and mirror back to them how they perceive themselves so that they can continue to feel like, they're the superior being. They need people to supply what they need to feed that false identity and that ego so that they can continue to feel good about themselves. So when they are on the hunt to find this supply and it's met with rejection, then sometimes that can be very triggering for a narcissist. Or let's say they are passed over for a job promotion or something that is going to give them even a greater title, a higher salary, something that's going to give them a bigger position, something that's going to give them more power and control, because that's really what they're after, power and control. So when their attempts to gain these things are met with rejection, then that is going to trigger a narcissistic injury. Any type of loss of power and control is going to trigger a narcissistic injury. When their reality is incongruent with how they perceive themselves, then that's going to trigger a narcissistic injury. For instance, sometimes the narcissist will lie about where they live, what they do for a living, who they know. They will create all of these fake demographics about themselves. And once they're found out, once they're discovered, it's not going to be in alignment with who they really are. The reality of the situation is not going to be in alignment with who they believe they are. Then they're going to suffer a narcissistic injury. And so what really happens is that at the core of the narcissist, there is a lot of shame. There's core shame, there's toxic shame. So anytime the narcissist feels a loss of status, power, control, a loss of supply, rejection, they are going to experience some shame. And that shame is going to trigger a narcissistic injury. So what happens when they experience a narcissistic injury? The narcissist is either going to implode or explode. They're going to internalize, or they're going to externalize, and they might do a little bit of both. And I'll tell you what that means. If you're dealing with a covert narcissist is someone who pretends to be more of a nice person. They pretend to be, these really great, caring, loving people. They pay attention to your needs. They do a lot of mirroring. They do a lot of manipulation. They try and make themselves appear to be more of a victim. So they don't believe that. This is all an attempt to make themselves seem like humble, decent, caring, loving people who are, victimized by people they're in relationships with or society in general. They do like to play the victim role, and they are also susceptible to depression. The covert narcissist can access some of their true feelings, but only for a short period of time. So when I say that one will either implode or explode when that narcissistic injury occurs, the implode or the internalization of that of those feelings related to the loss of that fake identity, that false persona, they're going to kind of look internally at themselves, and just for a very, very, very short-lived moment, they may have some feelings of self-doubt, loss of self-confidence, self-blame, shame, loss of shame, which could lead them to a depressive type of episode. Now, like I said, that's not going to last very long. It's going to be extremely short-lived. And what's going to happen after that, because the narcissist, for their psychological and emotional and mental survival, they cannot handle experiencing unpleasant emotions and thoughts pertaining to themselves not being perfect. So what they're going to do is they're going to notice that, and then they're going to flip the script. They're going to shift the blame. So they are only going to be in that victim depressed state for a very short period of time. And we're talking about the covert narcissist. An overt narcissist may not even experience that at all. They may feel some of that kind of shame and self-doubt, and they are quickly going to counter that with anger and with rage and with blame. So what we're going to see more often than not with a narcissist who suffers a narcissistic injury is we are going to see a lot of rage. A narcissistic injury triggers a narcissistic rage, and that comes with lots of abuse, emotional abuse. It could even get physical, temper tantrums, yelling, screaming, just raging, okay? Because they cannot handle it. If you've ever seen a narcissist who's been injured go into a narcissistic rage, then you know how scary it can be. They, in that moment, have completely lost it. And it is very scary because they cannot handle that core pain, that core shame being accessed, okay? The narcissist, typically, there are exceptions. I know people like to say, well, there are exceptions to that. There are exceptions to everything. But the narcissist typically comes from a dysfunctional family of origin. They're just as the codependent. In the narcissist family, there was perhaps abuse, neglect, emotional abandonment. The narcissist may have attachment issues. The narcissist may have been the hero child, and there was a lot of pressure for them to be perfect. And if they weren't perfect, the parents or caregivers may have withheld love and affection. So the narcissists, for their own psychological survival, have learned that they had to perform in order to gain what they need. Just as codependents may have also learned to perform to get validation and to get the things that they need. So you have to understand that the narcissist has a lot of trauma that gets triggered. So when we're talking about a narcissistic injury, we are talking about a trauma response. We are talking about early childhood, or at least some form of family of origin, typically that type of trauma being triggered. And so you see that show up in their behavior, in their emotional expression, in their reactivity in those moments. So you may be wondering, what do I do if I'm around a narcissist and they have suffered a narcissistic injury, especially if I feel like I've triggered it? What should I do? Well, the first thing you need to do is recognize that this person has suffered a narcissistic injury. They're going to have a major outburst, or they're going to completely shut down. And if they shut down, the outburst is likely to follow. So recognize it so that you can understand what's going on. The second thing that you need to do is you need to avoid the narcissist during those times. Otherwise, you are going to be the target of their rage. You are going to be blamed for what they are feeling, what they are experiencing, and they are going to take it out on you, and it is not going to be nice. So if you are a main source of supply for the narcissist, then you are going to be in a position to perhaps trigger a narcissistic injury. Those that are closest to the narcissist triggers the injuries because they depend on us to make them feel like they are superior, like they are perfect, to make them feel better about themselves, better about their lives, and they depend on us to be someone that they can victimize, control, and manipulate. So when their main sources of supply is discovering who they really are and figuring them out and maybe even confronting them, when they cannot control that main source of supply and they are not getting what they need from them, that is going to be one of the main triggers of a narcissistic injury. So yes, you are going to be the target of their rage. You want to avoid the narcissist during those times. Hopefully, if you're watching these videos, you're in a place where you're trying to avoid the narcissist altogether if you can. And I know there are some circumstances in which one cannot. If you have a child with them or children with them, if you work with them, if you go to church with them, if they're in your family or in your close friend group or whatever, there are narcissists all over the place. We can't always avoid them. So if you can avoid the narcissist during a narcissistic rage as a result of narcissistic injury, please do so. And you want to also understand that if the narcissist has suffered a narcissistic injury, they are now going to up the ante with their manipulation and abuse because they have to get back what they feel like they lost. They have to get back that feeling of confidence, that feeling of superiority, that feeling of power, that feeling of being in control, that feeling of being able to control you. They have to get that back. So they are going to increase their tactics. This is not a good time to be involved with the narcissist, to be around the narcissist, because you're going to see an increase in some of the normal narcissistic abusive behaviors that you typically see. So let me know what you guys think about this. I just wanted to share this information because I think it's so important to know the narcissistic injury can become a very scary experience if you've ever witnessed it or been a part of it. I have. I don't want to experience it again. And so when you know what triggers a narcissistic injury, then you can try to avoid doing so. But for the most part, you want to avoid having these people in your lives if you can help it. So that's the ultimate goal. The goal is not to walk on eggshells around these people so that we don't trigger them. The goal is to have some knowledge so that we can understand that some things that we do may trigger a dangerous response from them, a much more harmful response from them. So we can avoid that and avoid them during those times when that happens. But we don't want to feel like we can't assert ourselves. We have to walk on eggshells and tiptoe around them. That's not the goal. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this topic. What's your experience been with a narcissistic injury? And have you seen a narcissistic rage? What has that been like for you? Let me know also in the comment section down below if you have any other topics that you would like me to talk about in these videos. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. That really does help my channel. And share this video out with others that you think may benefit from this topic. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting on? We'd love to have you be a part of this community. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take care. Bye.